everybody, and welcome to Tova Talks 2021. And I couldn't imagine a more exciting start to this year's National Accessibility Week and Blue Nose Arts and Film Festival, and of course the Blue Nose Ability Arts and Film Festival, or BAF. So here in Canada, we've been hunkering down maybe a little longer than our friends in the States. One of my favorite people is Nancy Volpe-Berringer, one of the great names of 2019. And if you don't know why, let me tell you, when it comes to inclusion in fashion, right now, there's no one you're going to want to talk to more than her. And here we are at the intersection of an arts festival and an awareness week here in Canada around accessibility and inclusion of all our citizens. So there's no one to start this evening and day off or wherever you are and whenever you're listening than Nancy. Nancy, welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thank you.
I'm good. How is America holding out down there?
America's doing okay.
Don't worry about it. You don't represent them anyway. Listen, Nancy, I want to hear about fashion. I want to hear about inclusion. But just for some of our newer audience members, can you just tell us, the last we spoke, it was 2019. You were the star of Runway with your accessible designs, with your messaging around upcycling and reuse, and of course your coats, which I kept writing you about from the first day you appeared on the show as a fan. So tell us where we go from there, because we really need to catch up.
Well, March 12th, it was a Thursday. It was the finale of Project Runway. I was on top of the world, and because I knew right after Project Runway, I had an invite to Nova Scotia with my assistant, and we were all set to just kick the world of accessibility on its head. So that was Thursday. And Monday, we were shelter in place. So I haven't seen a client since then. When you talk about, I think the word of the pandemic, at least for me, has been pivot. I've been pivoting, so I'm dizzy, but that's what I do. But my latest pivot is what I'm so excited about, and I can't wait to share.
Okay, well, we want to hear about it. So just to remind everybody, what you did really was bring the idea of inclusion to the front line. It's always been something discussed in the back. And, you better than anyone understands that you've had clients, and the client you were dressing on Runway was a woman who happens to use a wheelchair, an Olympian. So I guess what I wanted to know first was, what was your biggest fear going into that kind of thing? And what did you learn that really, as you say, pivoted you onto really thinking about this as a place where you need to make a difference?
Well, it started when I went to fashion school at age 58. I can remember right in the beginning, the first year, I think it was, there was a weekend, it was called Charette, and it was on adaptive design. It's the first I heard of it. And we actually walked around whatever disability they gave us, and that's how we had to behave that for a whole day. But then fast forward, my next semester, I had children's wear, and I went, okay, I want to do adaptive design. Well, what I discovered was that everyone's unique. There's not a one size fits all. So I did a lot of research on sensory perception disorder. And so I looked at the scientific research, but I really learned best from the mothers' blogs and parents' blogs. So that was my children's wear. So it's always been in my mind. I considered with my fashion collection at the end of Drexel to do something maybe with the veterans, with disabilities. I just knew it was there. It didn't happen. And then on Project Runway, when we had a client challenge, and out comes the Olympiads and Paralympiads. If anyone looks at that segment, that episode, you will see me jump out of my seat. And I saw Tatiana coming down the runway in her wheelchair. And I just started to put every energy in the universe in my eyes, looking at her, and they were picking random. Now, I know some of my fellow designers are probably going, oh my God, please don't let me get Tatiana.
I'm sure they were. Let's be real, Nancy. I'm sure they were.
Well, because now we're not, maybe there's 6 of us left, 7. I'm not even sure how many. But if you make one little mistake, you're out. At that point, I said, this is why I'm on Project Runway. And I didn't care about Project Runway. It was all about my client. Now, this was a one-day challenge, and it was to do something for their awards for the Tokyo Olympics. So they had plenty of time to know what they wanted. But because of my little dabbling with adaptive design, I knew it had to be more than aesthetics. I knew it had to be about functionality. So we had, I don't know, maybe 30, maybe they gave us 45 minutes. So half of it was like Tatiana, what do you want? What is your fantasy in looks? And then it was, what is your fantasy in functionality? And that's when I found out, well, I'm in a wheelchair and a narrow waistband starts digging in. I'd love a nice high waistband. She did not want her legs exposed, but she wanted to go from the event to dancing. She wanted a train. Like, no matter what, she wanted a train. Again, my fellow contestants said, don't do it. They said, if she trips or if it gets caught, you're done. You're out of here. And I'm like, I don't care. And I remember like it was late in the night and I had Jeffrey wheeling me around to see about this train. And it was just meant to be. And my life changed forever. So I won the challenge. But then when I got and made the final four and I got back home, and, you know, you have your 10 looks, and I talked to the producers and I said, I want to have accessibility. I want inclusion. I want to have a choice of people, wheelchair users, prosthetic limbs. I want different ages, sizes, the whole bit. Now, the scary part is like, you don't know what you're going to get. They don't guarantee anything. And it's by chance. So I was committed to making a wheelchair look, meaning that I was putting less fabric in the back. I had Velcro sides, and it could have been I ended up with not having a wheelchair user model, and I would have been, you know, quite frankly, screwed, but I didn't care. And that was like, what was so interesting when I got all the models together, all 10 of them. So I had wheelchair user, I had prosthetic limb, I had a non-gender model, I had transgender, I had all different sizes, colors, ages. And they looked around, and then they looked around the other groups and the other contestants, and they knew there was something special happening. And every look they put on, they said, I feel like you made it for me. It is empowering. It's making me feel so good and empowered. And that's what I want my fashion to do.
It makes perfect sense. And you know, the fact that this came together, as you said, I also believe you were there at that moment, at that time, and it just all came out. I always joke that I had a little moment because I tell everybody how I was writing you before that because I loved your coats. And you were like, just hold on. And I'm like, no, I run this festival. You've got to come. You're like, just give it a minute. Just watch, you know. And I couldn't believe it. It was so exciting for me. But I do want to just make sure that we get a couple of things in that I'm really interested in that you've mentioned. First of all, I know that you've got a new platform coming out. And although maybe I'm a little ahead of where you want to be starting to talk too much about it, but can you share a little bit to the folks that are listening, especially because the majority of our listeners are Canadian, and what is the platform and how can we get involved?
Okay, so this is what happened when back in November, right before the election, my son, the baby, and my daughter, we left town. We're like, we're just going to go hide in the mountains because we didn't know what would happen with the election. We're hiding. Maybe we're not coming back. That's all I'll say about that.
There.
While I was there the first night, in the middle of the night, I start getting my phone buzzing up. Well, the apartment building where I live in my studio had an electrical fire and everyone was evacuated. Now, and then there was no power. They didn't know when you'd get back in. So I had two assistants showed up the next morning with trash bags and just started filling the stuff in and getting my stuff out of there. I found a place within a few days when I came back to rent. But what happened was while we were moving it, I said, oh my God, I've got so much stuff. Because before I quit my job and went to fashion school, I was really into consignment shopping. And in my professional corporate world, I wore suits and it became a really obsessive addiction, I would say. I can't say a hobby, it was addictive. But then it's one thing when it's all stuffed in your closet. Well, when you move and it expands, I went, look at all this stuff I have. Now, at the same time, I'm not meeting clients, you're not making money, and I want to do an adaptive line. So I said, you know what, I'm going to start selling off my designer, collectibles. But I didn't want to go to another platform because I didn't want to have to pay the money. I needed to make as much money as possible. And then one morning I woke up and I said, why am I waiting to do adaptive design? And I start looking at the other resale platforms of high-end designers, and nowhere do they cater to accessible adaptive design. Nowhere. So what we're doing, it's coming from my closet and from some select people that I know. When you think about if you're retail shopping online and you have a drop down, what color, what size? Well, our drop down is going to have Do you want to replace the buttons with magnets or Velcro? Do I need to take the zipper out, make a higher waistband, have an opening for a port? And that's how we're having a fully accessible, upcycled resale, a designer platform. I mean, think about a Chanel jacket that's accessible, or
Right.
if it needs to be shortened in the back for a wheelchair user. Now, do I know how to technically do all this? Heck no. But as the stuff comes in, I'm going to learn, or I'll reach out and get the help that I need. So we're right now just doing some lifestyle shots. I have a very young Yaz who is going to come up to the festival. She's an amazing stylist. So she's mixing Prada and Chanel and oh my God, Messina. It's just crazy stuff. And so they're really cool things, but it's going to be accessible. And we're also trying to make our website as accessible. So we're looking at what color is best for people with colorblind. We're making sure our graphics don't flash so much, to cause a seizure. We're trying to have the text behind the photo. So we're trying to do the best to make our website also accessible. So I'm so excited. And I said, you know what, maybe this is where I belong. I've been on some Zoom and some Instagram talking to adaptive designers, people with disability from around the world, and they almost jump through the screen. It doesn't exist. Like, to find an idea that doesn't exist is, I think, like impossible.
Impossible.
And apparently, from what I know, this doesn't exist anywhere where you have these a high-end resale designer site that will cater and include, everyone. Now, in the beginning, it's not going to have a whole bunch of different sizes because it's first coming mainly out of my closet, but I'm hoping to expand or maybe start to consign other people's in different sizes.
So just for our viewers, just to add to another layer of incredible to what you do, because in addition to adaptive, you mentioned it, but I really want to take a moment here and talk about, again, the whole idea of upcycle, which is something you've been doing long before you got to this place and this platform. But I'm really interested if you could share with some of the people watching, because we work with a lot of young, up and coming designers and artists through the Blue Nose Ability Arts and Film Festival. And, they don't have too many people to talk to look up to, too many mentors in the field for exactly the reasons you said it doesn't necessarily exist. Right. And I wonder what you would want to be telling them right now, these designers who are really trying to not only as persons with disabilities emerge, but also emerge and create that voice and normalize fashion for persons with disabilities. Because you yourself have taken so many lefts and rights. I wonder what you would want to share with folks that were in that earlier stage, an emerging stage of their careers, and wanting to make sure they don't lose track of the importance, whether it's upcycling or in their case, adaptive or whatever.
Well, the one thing is fashion's a tough world. Okay. It's really, really tough. So you have to find something you're passionate about. And it has to be, for me, authentic. And so then you're designing and working with your soul and your heart. I didn't quite understand why it was my nature, with on Project Runaway, to be so inclusive. Like, when I would get a model, they weren't just a mannequin, a body. I would start talking to them and collaborating with them. So my designs included their needs. It was just everybody. And I didn't quite understand until after Project Runway, and I had a lot of interviews, and I realized, growing up and having survived bullying, I know what it feels like to be on the outside and not fit in. So for me, the purpose, or one of the purposes of fashion, is, again, to be able to express your individuality and to empower and bring the best out of you. And so it's an innate thing of me wanting to be inclusive. Also, I think the adaptability, I think there's a reason. Why did a 61-year-old graduate from fashion school? It can't be just to make more clothes. We got plenty of clothes in this world. I always said, well, when I was asked what I was going to do afterwards, I just wanted to be relevant. I didn't want to answer because I didn't want to say, okay, I'm going to do evening wear, children's wear. I didn't want to put myself in that box, but I wanted to be relevant. And for me, that was to do good. So right out of fashion school, I was selling at the top fashion store in Philadelphia, Joan Shep, who buys from the Paris runway, but at the same time I was working with refugees, women, and teaching them how to sew and how to ice dye and make things that they could resell and sell to be, as they were on their way to citizenship. Then I became involved with a lot of charities. So that was like, so there's a reason I believe I was on Project Runway. I knew at age 50, and I wasn't a fashion designer. I had no business to fantasize. There was just something in me that said, I need to be on that show. And that was the first season. I was 50 when I first watched it. Then, you know, age 64, made history as the oldest ever person on the show. But I just felt it was my destiny, and I feel it's my destiny to have a voice in adaptive design. And we'll see how or where, but it's not something I'm going to walk away from. It's who I am.
I really appreciate that. And I want you to know, I guess in that way, maybe that's part of what always attracted me to you right from the beginning, was the idea that we can both have a catharsis in terms of the experiences that we've personally had, and bringing those to our experience now, and having a better understanding of what value is and passion is and how to find it. But then again, being able to apply it when you have a skill as incredible as yours, and then finding that relevance and giving people both an inspiration to do more. Because for me personally, as someone who's a little older, I'm 60 this year, it means a great deal to me that you reminded me that I'm just beginning. And as I tell everybody, you know, I've got my little book here, Win, 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 and I got your note, thank you. And I really thought of you as I was putting it together, because I always thought, you know, there's some sort of expiry date on creativity. And if you've taught me anything, Nancy, it's that there's just simply no such thing on passion, on commitment, and most importantly, on the idea of win-win-win, which is doing what you love, doing it for people in a way that it makes you feel like you're making a difference. And I guess what I always thought about when I think of you is, you may not be able to do everything, but you can do something, and you've never let what you can't do get in the way of what you can. And for me, that's just so empowering, both from an individual person with disability perspective, but also as an advocate and someone trying to make a difference within my community. So I really just want to thank you for that. And next year you are coming, my girl. You will be here, your assistant. We're going to have the fashion show. NASCAD Can't Wait, which is the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design. We're going to have young people go. And this is the other thing I want to mention before we go. What I loved when I invited you initially is your ask was, can I meet people with diverse disabilities and talk to them and understand better? And I thought that is the greatest ask of all time from someone. I'm saying, could you come to town? They're like, can I learn from your community? Can I gain knowledge? I'm like, come on down. So Nancy, again, I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate what you're putting into the world, and how much we want to be part of that in our little way over here.
Thank you so much. This has just brightened my day.
Well, as always, you brighten mine. So, and Krista's in back, and we're both fans. So we're trying to be cool with you. But the truth is, Nancy, we're just hoping and praying that both in your family life, everything settles down, and soon enough, we'll all be together and really celebrating inclusion in the way it should be, hand in hand.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's great talking to you, my dear.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.